Hello, my name is Asati. Welcome to the Ethical Atheist channel. Now, one question that has always popped up every time atheists meet theists has been on the impact of gods or religion on morality. Every time theists ask atheists whether it's possible to have morals without gods, atheists have almost always shouted yes. On the other hand, theists such as Christians, Muslims, Jews, etc. have come up with all manner of arguments as they try to impose their gods and their religions on us. For example, listen to this one.
That atheists and agnostics, once they choose that path or their point of view, do you believe that they can't be as moral as Christians?
Oh no, atheists, agnostics can be just as moral as anybody else. The question isn't, do you need God to be moral? You have to believe in God to be moral. No, there's atheists that are very moral. The question is, can you justify morality without God? And that's the problem, right? It's not, can you act morally? Of course, atheists can act morally. The question is, can you justify what is moral without God? And I say, no, it's just your opinion if there's no God.
Now, did you see what I saw? Did you hear what I heard? Instead of answering the question directly, our brother decided to play around with the question and bring a tactical ploy of changing the goalpost. He has decided to change the question so that he's able to answer it the way he wants to answer it. And he answers it thinking he'd win, only for him to throw himself into an abyss from which he couldn't recover. That is, if I were there to ask him a follow-up question. Now, if I were there, this could have been my follow-up question. If God is the source, author, basis, originator, yardstick, and standard for measuring morality, are you sure we could be a moral world? I'd ask this because I know something about God that you possibly do not know yet. And that is that God is not the originator of morality. No. Instead, He is the author, basis, originator, yardstick, and standard for all immorality. If you doubt this, follow me as we walk through the Bible, where God commanded terrible things that we cannot, of course, term as moral actions. I'll just read a few verses. And I'll begin with verses where God Himself commanded mass murders, genocide, and ethnic cleansing. And I'll jump to Exodus 17, 8-16. This is a common story where Israelites met the Amalekites. Now, the story starts with verse 8. Now Amalek came and fought with Israel in Rephidim. And of course, God helped the Israelites to defeat the Amalekites. And verse 14, God says, Then the Lord said to Moses, Write this for a memorial in the book and recount it in the hearing of Joshua, that I will utterly blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Imagine, that's a God from whom we expect morality. Besides this verse, there are so many other verses in the Bible where God has commanded so many other people to be killed, like the Amorites, and so many, the Philistines, and so many others. In fact, in the entire Bible, God has killed at least 20 million people. There is a time I was trying to count them. There are so many. And that's the God from whom we expect morals. That's crazy. Now, jumping quickly from where God was commanding murders and genocide, are you aware of what God says concerning rape? Let's jump to another verse. Deuteronomy chapter 22 is a chapter which talks about sexual morality. That's morality according to God and what He thinks about morality. Now, of more interest is Deuteronomy 22, 28-29, which talks about marrying a woman who is not a virgin. I'll read. The Bible says, If a man finds a young woman who is a virgin, who is not betrothed, and he seizes her and lies with her, in other words, rapes her, and they are found out, then the man who lay with her shall give to the young woman's father 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife because he has humbled her. He shall not be permitted to divorce her all his days. Now imagine a drunkard out in the village finds a 14-year-old young woman, rapes her. The only punishment that man has to do or has to pay is to pay a dowry for the young woman, and that is it. Now, supposing that is your 14-year-old daughter to whom a crazy man does that, really? Is that the morality you're talking about? That's crazy. Now, as if that's not enough, let's go to Exodus chapter 21. This is where God talks about laws regarding slavery. And by the way, I do not think there are better laws about slavery, except laws which, forbid slavery altogether. Like, you cannot regulate slavery and say you hate the idea. And I do not think that any normal human being wants to condone the idea of slavery in the first place. I think it's because we discovered slavery is a bad thing that we abolished it altogether. And that's because we realized that whatever the Bible was saying about slavery wasn't good enough. And as human beings, as atheist human beings, we decided to come up with secular laws which actually banned slavery instead of what the Bible was attempting to do by regulating it, by coming up with policies. Anyway, let's read Exodus chapter 21, which talks about regulations on slavery. Exodus chapter 21 says, that is Exodus 21 verse 20 to 21. It says, "And if a man beats his male or female servant with a rod, so that he dies under his hand, he shall surely be punished. Notwithstanding, if he remains alive a day or two, he shall not be punished, for he is his property." Can you imagine that? God is saying some slaves are properties to the slave masters. And you really want to call that morality? That's crazy. It sounds crazy to me. I think that whole idea makes those verses really project God as a character who condones slavery, who feels it's okay for other people to enslave others. That cannot be moral. I mean, it does not sound moral to me, or does it sound to you? I think God stands a very little chance to lecture anybody on morality if this is the kind of morality in which he believes. And if you feel like I'm being too harsh on God, let's read another one, the last one. I can leave you. Deuteronomy 22 is a chapter which talks about various issues on morality, and I'll pay more attention to verse 20 to 21. This is the verse which says, if you marry a woman and on the wedding night you realize she's not a virgin, you should actually take her out and stone her. Let me read it in case you're doubting me. Now, from verse 20 it says, "But if the thing is true, that is, if a man claims that the woman is not a virgin, if that is confirmed to be true, and evidence of virginity are not found for the young woman, then they shall bring out the young woman to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her to death with stones, because she has done a disgraceful thing in Israel, to play the harlot in her father's house. So you shall put away the evil from among you." This verse is weird for two reasons. Number one, I do not think virginity is supposed to be regarded as more important than life. And secondly, I feel this verse is against women, because why would you stone a woman for not being a virgin without caring about the man who deflowered the lady? Because really, I want to assume some man somewhere, slept with the lady and deflowered her. Why do you want us to pay attention to the young woman for not being a virgin, but you don't want to address the issue of the man who deflowered her? I find that crazy, really. Now, I could go on and on and on until evening, but I think I can stop here and restate what I say. God cannot be the author of morality. If we followed every command in the Bible as a basis for morality, I can assure you we cannot achieve morality, and instead the entire world could turn into the most immoral piece of shit. So basically, in my opinion, really, we cannot rely on God to be our basis for morality. We cannot. Till next time. See you.